The Maine People Podcast, available everywhere. Click subscribe so you never miss an episode. Brand new Maine People Podcast. Scotty Too Hotty is the next guest. Maine's best known, most famous professional wrestler. Maine's only professional wrestler?
No, there's Robbie Ellis, of course, who, you know, he goes way back, you know, and he was when I was a kid growing up, he was like the first guy from Maine I ever met who did this. And then, oh man, I'm sorry.
No, it's totally fine.
And then there's Fandango, who still lives up there. You know, he's kind of part-time in Florida and part-time in Maine. So, but he was after me. So, but yeah, we were the only two guys. I was the first guy to ever make it to WWE, and then Fandango was after me. So,
right, to really break out. I don't even know what to call you now. Do I like? We're not using your real name. Do we call you like artist formerly known as Scotty Too Hotty? Are you officially Scotty Too Hotty? Is it, you know, FKA Scotty Too Hotty?
Yeah, I've been using, you know, the way they advertise me on the posters is Scott Garland, FKA Scotty Too Hotty, because his company in Stamford, Connecticut still owns the name Scotty Too Hotty, you know?
We won't mention them again then. Well, definitely not. Look, it's been what, 6 months since you returned to the ring?
Yeah, January 1st was my return date. And that was kind of by design, you know. Not at first, you know. I started, you know, when I left WWE, and I asked for my release in November, you know, I started on social media. You know, 2022 was going to be the return of the Worm and Scotty, and you know, all this stuff. And then I was like, man, I really need to show up somewhere January 1st. So I started, you know, researching where shows were going to be and stuff, and I, you know, was able to make it happen. So, and it's been amazing. It's been a whirlwind since. Actually, this last Saturday night, John, was my first Saturday night off since I started back.
Hey, congratulations!
What's that?
I mean, you and I talked. I don't know. I'm going to say it was probably 10 or so years ago. Last time we saw each other in person, and you had no intention of ever getting back in the ring. I don't think.
No, well, I mean, when I stopped wrestling in it was 2016 when I had my last match, and that was only because I went back to WWE as a coach, you know, for all of the new talent. You know, the WWE Performance Center just happened to land, and of all places, 40 minutes from my house here in Orlando. So it was kind of a no-brainer to take that job when it was offered to me. And right. I had never, you know, I was a backyard guy growing up, like a backyard wrestler, basically, which means basically I was never really taught. You know, never went to a wrestling school or anything. I kind of learned in my mom's garage in Westbrook, you know, and yeah, so I ended up taking this job, and then I just kind of stopped wrestling, you know, and then as years went by, you know, here we are, you know, 5 years go by, 6 years go by, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'm done. I guess I've had my last match. And then everything kind of changed at the end of last year, and I was like, man, I saw guys out there having fun, and it's just like, man, like, I wasn't having fun at WWE anymore, and
right.
You know, whether it's on me or them or a combination, whatever. I'm not gonna, I don't want to point fingers or anything, but I'm very thankful for all the time I had there, but there just seemed to be something outside that I wanted to explore, and it was a huge risk, it was a huge decision, a huge gamble, and so far it's been amazing. It's been I keep saying this is the most special time of my career. You know, you go back to Rikishi and Too Cool days back in like 2000. Of course, those were the big money days and the big exposure days where you're on TV, you know, a couple times a week, you know, all over the world. So that's what everybody should get and where you want to get. But right now it's just here I am, and I never thought about this when I left. Everything changed on the independent circuit since I left 6-7 years ago, where I'm meeting these grown men and women who were 10 years old in 2000 at the peak of my career, who are now in their 30s with kids of their own. You know, I think when I left the independent scene the last time, they were still in their 20s. And when you're in your 20s, you're like, I'm going to live forever and I don't care about all this stuff. When you start to get in your 30s, you go, oh, like, that was a cool time. And there's this more of this nostalgic thing happening right now. So that's why I keep saying
Yeah.
it's the most special time. I think for me too, because I know, realistically, how much longer can I do this at a level that I want to be able to do it? So I realize that my days are probably, winding down as well.
Well, you found ways to spread the word and to teach. You're doing these seminars. We have a couple pictures of one of your recent seminars. You just came back from the UK not too long ago, and you did a bunch of seminars there too. Because we were supposed to do the podcast from the UK, and would you like to tell the time difference story?
Yeah, it was just killing us. I thought, when we talked about setting it up, I thought, oh, it'd be cool, to do it from the UK. I was going to be over there for that tour I think was a week long. And, I was like, it'd be cool to do it from there. And it was I forgot how much later it was going to be over there, but it's all good, man.
Are fans the same everywhere? Or fans turn students the same everywhere?
Japan's probably the most different. They're very quiet while the action is happening, and then once something does happen, you get the quick clap, almost like a golf clap.
Wow.
But otherwise, it's pretty much the same. The UK fans I love because they have their soccer chants, all of that stuff they do. Like when I go to take off the bucket hat over there. I found I just started to do it really slow, and as I started to do it, they start like they play along with everything, and they have these different chants. And it's a blast. It makes it fun. So stuff like that is and I talk about this in my seminars where I'm still 32 years into this, and finding stuff to put in my act and to put in my show. Like that. So that started in the UK, but I just did it Saturday night in Chicago, where you have to almost condition the audience to what you're doing, and they catch on and they do it, So, and it's just little fun things to add in, and you just really, you don't have to plan that you're going to do them. You just put them in your back pocket, and you have them when you can break out when you want to do.
And sooner or later, fans have all caught on, and it builds and it builds and it builds.
That's it. Yeah.
Is it hard doing the seminars? Because obviously they're full of fans who may be a little starstruck and not really paying attention. They're there because they love you, but they also want to learn a little from you, but then maybe leave realizing I wasn't really listening.
No. Well, the fans are the majority of the people taking the seminars. I mean, are trainees, and they're going to their local wrestling schools or their local wrestlers. There's been some where they're just total fans, but either way, it's cool. My seminars are just talking. I'll talk for a couple hours. I always book them for 2 hours, and then if I have to go longer, I'll go longer. Or I feel like we've wrapped up and there aren't any more questions or whatever, we'll wrap up. But for the majority of the time, I've done anywhere from 2 hours to 4 hours. But it's I love doing them because I'm talking about what I'm passionate about. And they have the opportunity. I start every seminar pretty much the same where I'll say, this is your seminar. It's advertised as my seminar, but it's really yours. You guys are the ones that have paid for this. So I want you to walk out of here just like with the same mindset that I go into a show. I want them to walk out going, I absolutely got my money's worth. So I'll say, if you guys want to get in the ring and you want to work on something and you want to do 450s or backflips off the top, and let me tell you how great it looks or how bad it looks, we can do that. Or we can talk and make this a conversation, and you guys can pick my brain for 2 hours. And I'll say, I think that's where I'm most valuable to you guys, because I've pretty much done, I don't want to say everything you can do, but I've done a lot for a kid who started at 15 years old on mattresses, never trained, at 150 pounds in a big man's world. I went out and did a lot as talent, and then I also coached for WWE, for, like I said, for 6 years. So I feel like it'd be a wasted opportunity not to just really talk. And, I'll say I'm an open book. I might not have the right answer, but I'll tell you my honest opinion, and I can give you my best answer from my experience and what I'm,
I mean, you've got the perspective of, over the years, you've had the good and you've had the bad.
And
Speaking of over the years, I want to look back. One of my favorite memes that I saw recently on the internet, because you posted it and you're in it. And it rings doubly true because here in Maine, you once worked manager at the Spencer Gifts in the mall, right?
I did, yeah. I worked at a lot of different places around there, but I was in the main mall. It's funny because I just went back there when I was up there in was it February, I think. But of course Spencer's has moved down to the other end now, and they always say you can't go home, right? And it's so true because you go home and you're like you expect the same people to be in the same stores, working in the same places, and like everybody moves on, and it's just so different.
And your kids never want to hear, oh, this store used to be here, and that used to be whatchamacallit, and they're like, I don't care.
Yeah, all the old man stories, right? Like I also worked at Fleet Bank on Congress Street.
You were a banker?
Yeah, I was a bank teller on Congress Street, right there. I can't think what the branch is. It's right where the old Daring ice cream used to be. Here I am, where stuff used to be again.
You've just named two things that don't exist anymore.
Right. And they haven't for like 20 years.
Yeah, right. I mean, I remember what Spencer Gifts used to be like, and it still is like. But when my kids were little, not wanting them to go in there to look at stuff. Like, do you remember like when you were running the place, like having to usher kids out of the store because you don't want to be responsible for them seeing their first boobies?
Yeah, well, I was basically a kid when I was working there, so I didn't know any better at the time. But looking back, yeah, I also worked at Unum. I worked there for a couple of years. That's actually I was at Unum at the big building right out there by the mall when I got the call from WWF in '97 to offer me the contract. That's where I was. Yeah.
Was it easy to walk away?
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, that's all I ever wanted to do, since I was 10 years old, was wrestle for WWF, So, such a cool thing,
I mean, growing up in Westbrook, and you were so young when that happened, but you still, enough time growing up in Maine. Did you have like different perspectives and different values from the people that you were then wrestling with and working with, just by virtue of you being a Mainer?
What do you mean?
Like, I think being from Maine compared to other parts of the country, we certainly, we do things differently. We handle things differently. Sometimes we talk differently. And that can also have an effect on the way you, handle yourself in the business world.
Yeah, no, I think, dude, honestly, and I say this all the time, I think New England people in general are the most genuine people, especially Maine people, the most genuine people you meet anywhere, So I don't know if that played into anything or not. I honestly don't know. I don't know.
What do you miss when you come home? What do you like to see?
Back
to the mall? Yeah. All right.
Yeah. The seafood for sure, All
right. So you just came back from the UK. What's better, like fish and chips or a good lobster dinner?
Oh, dead lobster, man. That's my go-to number one food. So it's hard to go against the lobster.
Maine People Podcast coming up in the next segment. Coming up, I want to talk about how the movie Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo may have changed your life.
Yes.
All right, that's coming up on the Maine People Podcast.
The way my dad brought me up was always to work hard and to treat people well.
You ready to go for a ride?
We try to keep our goal to make people feel comfortable buying their cars and feel comfortable with the people they're working with.
Nice. Oh, it looks good over here.
So become part of our family. We really mean that. Without question, we're in this together.
We're going to take care of you and treat you like your family anyways.
This looks awesome.
Yankee Ford has so many people willing to help and make this tough time a little bit easier.
Radio207.com only plays original country music from Maine singers, songwriters, and bands. Streaming online and on your smart speaker. Radio207.com is on the air now. Radio207.com. Only Maine, only country music. Your next online event can be perfect thanks to virtualproductionsgroup.com. The Maine People Podcast couldn't happen without them, and they can make your remote streaming event absolutely technically perfect. High quality live and pre-recorded productions for corporate events, weddings, tournaments, charities, and more with virtualproductionsgroup.com. Scotty Too Hotty with the Maine People Podcast. Scott Garland, artist formerly known as Scotty Too Hotty, covered that in segment 1. You were probably, maybe junior high school age during the big breakdancing craze, bust out the cardboard in the driveway.
I think it was, honestly, John, I think it was elementary school. I remember being trying to think, was it Congan?
Yeah.
It's weird. I do these podcasts all the time, but I can never like rattle off like local places. So this is really cool for me. So I'm trying to show off here, but I'm also.
We're going to talk about your career as much as we're going to talk about just home. So that's what it's all about.
I was in middle school, and I can remember doing, like you said, like having the cardboard out there and the whole break-in thing and the break-in too and all that stuff out at the time. And I was never a dancer. Still to this day, never been a dancer. I'm terrified.
I mean, this is the worm is like a classic breakdancing move, right?
That's where it came from.
That's what I was guessing.
Yeah, all of the theatrics behind it, came about later and, kind of fell into place by accident, really. But the move was just a breakdancing move. And I knew that I would just start doing it on shows as almost a joke to make the other guys laugh. Do it on my entrance, or I just drop down in the middle of the match and do it. But it was getting a reaction, so, and then I just started adding little pieces to it. And, one night on Monday Night Raw, as I'm hopping to the other side of the ring, I started hopping for some reason. And Jerry Lawler spelled out worm. And he said, as I'm hopping, WORM. And I heard him, and I asked him to I heard it on the playback the next day, and I asked him just to keep doing that. And sure enough, a month later or so, the whole arena was chanting along with it, So I was lucky to get that, because that's, lucky and unlucky, because I'm going to be 70 years old and people are going to be asking me to do the worm, and I'm not going to be able to do it, right? But I've also got this thing that I'm fortunate, 22 years later, that people still remember me for, and it kind of gave me a place in the Attitude Era, in a crazy time with crazy characters that made me stand out, at 200 pounds, which was not easy at the time.
Right. Well, it certainly had its physical effects on you doing it over and over and over again.
Yeah, I don't know. I've had back surgery and neck surgery, so maybe it played into there somewhere.
I'm no doctor, but that would be my guess. Like, that's not naturally good for the body, so I don't know. I mean,
not 200 nights a year, anyways.
You're definitely like a dreams come true, get what you work hard for scenario. For other people, when you're doing your seminars and you're talking to people who want to get into wrestling, like, I'm sure you're spending time also talking to them, convincing them about, like, don't give up, because hard work really does pay off.
Absolutely. And that's my line. Like, you have to outwork everybody, no matter what you're doing, if it's wrestling or if it's anything else, you have to outwork everybody. Like, how many people would love your job, that you've been doing for all these years? And and people go, oh, I could do that. I could talk on the radio every morning. But no, you have to get up, you have to outwork everybody else and outgrind everybody else and pay your dues and stand out. And, of course, there is some luck, there is some right place, right time involved in that. Yeah, first of all, you have to put in the work. You're not going to get that right place, right time unless you put the work in first, So, and that's what I preach at these seminars, like, outwork everybody else, like, and just if you keep putting in the work, somebody's going to notice eventually, and then, even if it's not, getting booked at WWF or WWE the next day, it's going to be the next level is going to notice, and then the next level will notice, and the next level will notice, and you just have to put in that work. And if you don't, you're just going to be another person who said, "Oh, I could have done that."
When you started wrestling professionally, how old were you?
I was 15, I think, when I first stepped into a ring. I was 16 when I had my first paid match at the South Portland Armory.
Right. Right.
Thanksgiving, yeah, it was Thanksgiving night, 1989. I had my first paid match. I was paid $10 at the South Portland. It was
Jeez.
half boxing, half wrestling show, and there were like 75 fans there, and I think they were like probably 75% boxing fans, so they hated everything that the pro wrestlers were doing.
Get out of the way. Not
Yeah,
too far from your son's age right now.
it's
And
crazy.
you had that picture posted, which and your comment on Facebook was something similar to the fact that, like, can't believe I have a son the same age as when I started doing this.
It's insane.
How does that make you feel as a parent? Would you encourage him to start the same way your parents probably did for you?
Absolutely. Whatever, like both the kids, whatever they want to do, I tell them focus on doing something you love. Don't focus on doing something for money, which I think is what a lot of people do. And they tap out for a paycheck. And then if, years go by and they realize, I hate this job that I go to every single day. But I've got this great house and a great car and a boat and snowmobiles, but they're
Right.
miserable going to work. We spend too much time in our life, I think, working, to do something that you hate. So if that's what he want to do, and honestly, John, like just recently he started mentioning wanting to do it. And he's actually going, I have a 3-week UK tour in July
Cool.
coming up, and he's going to go with me and a bunch of shows. So may mess around with him a little bit over there and get him in the ring before a couple of shows and just see how he feels,
Your daughter, I'm not sure from your social media if she wants to wrestle or be a Disney princess. Where would you go with that?
Somewhere in between, actually. Her ultimate goal is to be on Broadway. But
Okay.
right now she's been working at Universal doing some performance and entertainment stuff there, and then she's been auditioning like crazy over the last few weeks actually for both Universal and Disney. So it would be be really cool to see her do it. I know she's going to do something great. Both of them are going to do great stuff. I know. So
Sure, making dreams come true, and a good example set by their parents. When you were first coming up, I'm sure you had wrestlers that you wanted to emulate but not copy. Who
Yeah.
was the most influential, and who was the most influential and accommodating to you when you were coming into the business?
The guy that I always is my go-to is Shawn Michaels. Like I honestly I stole half of his stuff. Like and I didn't even realize it till one night I saw him on TV and I was sitting in a hotel room off on the road and he had just come back and I was like, man, like I stole like most of his stuff and I didn't even realize it. Just accidentally. Just different stuff in my moveset.
Mm-hmm.
Super kick, a nip up, a flying forearm, like all stuff that he does. Earlier in my career, I was absolutely copying a lot of his style and stuff, his clothes style and stuff. But the cool thing is, like, I went on to work at the Performance Center as a coach with him. So I was like working.
Yeah.
I would joke with him, and I would say, "It's crazy that I work a day job with Shawn Michaels." And he said, "It's crazy that I work a day job." But other than like most accommodating, that somebody was always cool, really super cool with me was Owen Hart. And just a cool guy and a smaller guy for the time. I kind of gravitated towards the smaller guys. And when I say smaller guys, I'm talking, Owen was probably 220, 225, and Shawn was the same at the time. But at the time, we're talking, Hogan's and Undertaker and these monsters that they created in the 80s and going into the 90s. Everything started to change with Bret Hart and Owen Hart and Shawn and, Marty Jannetty and the Rockers and all those guys. But so it kind of opened. I would say if it wasn't for Shawn Michaels, there probably would have never been me, because I feel like Shawn opened a lot of doors for smaller guys.
Wow.
Proved to Vince McMahon that, hey, smaller guys can go too. You don't have to be 300 pounds.
Right. Put in the hard work, like you said. Here's an action figure. Do you have them all? Do you have all of the Scotty 2 Hotty action figures?
I don't. I think I have that one. I don't have all of them though. There's actually a bendy out there that I've never even seen in person.
What?
Yeah, and like in the late, it must have been the 2000s, because it was the Scotty 2 Hotty figures, and I started Scotty 2 Hotty in '99. So, but it's selling on eBay for like $1,500 now.
You're selling a lot of merch now, and we'll put a link up to your website too for people to see it and show some pictures of it here too.
I'm not saying I'm selling it for $1,500. I'm just saying
No.
people have sent me a link.
Your merch is very reasonably priced with some great the bucket hats and the shirts and the what are those huggy what are those we call those huggy things? The stuffed ones.
The slam little plush
the
things.
slam buddies. Sorry, space on the name. But what's your?
Sorry, man.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that's something else that's changed in the last 6 or 7 years since I left the independents was these different vehicles and outlets to make money outside of just wrestling. It's like a Pro Wrestling Tees out of Chicago. I just went for them this past weekend and did some stuff for them. But they'll print all the shirts and you can order shirts directly from them. So I don't have to have all these shirts on hand and right. Stuff like Cameo and the Slam Buddy. It's just all these different things that kind of opened up, as well as social media taking off, allowing you to kind of promote yourself a lot better than you could 6 or 7 years ago.
What's your favorite Scotty Too Hotty merch that there ever has been?
Oh man, probably.
Is there something you were like when you first saw it? You were like, "Oh my god, this is friggin' the best thing I've ever seen."
I mean, I think like the coolest thing for a wrestler is to get the action figures and the video games. To be on the video games and stuff is really cool. And I can remember seeing the first action figure, and it was just like a prototype that the guy, I think it was in Anaheim, California, and the guy brought it, and just it wasn't in a package. It was just a loose figure to show me what it was going to be, and that's cool. That's all part of the goals. I think for anybody
right.
is to get It's
Speaking
funny,
of merch. No, go ahead because I'm going to switch to Kiss in a second. So finish that story.
I was going to say a few years ago, I put myself through firefighter school and EMT school. I was like, what am I going to do next? So I went through fire school and we were sitting in class and it was this like really super jock guy who used to play football and he's just super cocky. And I remember one morning we were getting ready for class to start and he was just busting on a kid to sitting beside me. He's like, oh yeah, do you have a highlight reel? And I shot back. I said, do you have action figures? And that was like the whole class. Crazy, but it's something that sticks out when we talk about that stuff.
Are you a character in a video game?
Yeah, exactly. Right. And I always say that. I always say it jokingly. I was like, "You have action figures?"
Right. Cool. You don't want to come off with the attitude, but it's also a conversation stopper. So you're doing it right.
Yeah. Right.
All right. So you've got your merch. What's your favorite Kiss memorabilia that you own? Because I know you're such a huge fan, and you've got to have a ton of stuff.
I don't have a ton of stuff. I'm trying to think. I have a lot of stuff over there, but I don't really have.
That's surprising.
I don't have a lot of Kiss merch. I have a lot of Kiss shirts. But don't have a lot of. I don't have a lot of stuff, honestly. Like I spend my money on experiences. I don't literally buy a lot of stuff. So I don't really have. I'm trying to think. Nothing really, man. I don't even have like CDs or tapes anymore that or albums.
Nobody does. They're all at the Goodwill. Nobody has those.
I don't collect anything, but I don't really. Jeez, I'm trying to think of something. Have a lot
if the answer is no, your answer is I don't collect a lot of stuff, and that's like
that's it. Yeah.
That is the opposite of me. So
really?
What keeps you inspired? Scotty, you've had neck problems, you've had testicular cancer, you've had, I don't know how many back surgeries.
No,
you've climbed
So the testicular thing was just a scare. So I don't want to say
it wasn't. Cancer. Okay, good.
Yeah, it's like I won't say I was a firefighter. People always bring up the firefighter thing. They say, oh, thanks for, do the fire. It's like, no, I wasn't a firefighter. I went through school. I don't want to claim that I was ever a firefighter,
Right. What keeps you inspired? You've certainly had enough mountains to climb.
I think it's just, just having fun. Like, as long as I can have fun doing this, I'm going to do it, and it's just like, I'm having, John, like, I have so much fun. Like, I don't dread going out there. I love everything I do. Like, and I'm trying to make it where I'm not, like when you're with WWF or WWE, it's, this town, that town, this town, you don't know. It's like being in a band, and you don't know where you are at the time. Where this run right now, I'm trying to enjoy it as much as possible and take time, if that means flying in a day early, just so I can wake up there and at least have the day in that town, or stay extra. Couple weeks ago, I was on the West Coast for a show on a Saturday night in Washington State. My next booking wasn't until the following Friday in Northern California. So I didn't want to fly all the way out to Washington State, fly all the way back to Orlando to fly all the way back. So I was like, what can I do cool that I've always wanted to do? And I started looking at different options, and I ended up going to Alaska for 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
And I was able to have the Washington promoter, instead of flying me home to Orlando, he flew me to Alaska. And then the Northern California promoter flew me from Alaska and everybody made out because it was cheaper for them. And I didn't have to come home. And the kids are old enough now where they're busy and they're doing their own thing. So I don't feel as bad about, being away and missing stuff. If they have something going on, it's a different story, but most of the time they're just wanting to hang out with their friends and do their own thing.
You're finding the adventures wherever you happen to be, which is really great. Like you said, enjoying life instead of just in and out of a hotel. And you had a train mishap at one point recently. If you want to tell the story, I have a picture of, I think, you and your son on the train because it was an accidental train adventure that you guys ended up on.
Yes, well, it started with a plane mishap. So we were in Dallas for WrestleMania weekend. Did the WrestleCon stuff down there, and he went with me. And when we went to fly home from Dallas, our flight was canceled. So one of the greatest things I've ever done is taken the train from Oakland, California to Chicago. The scenery out west was just unbelievable, and I just tell everybody, like, the coolest things. Once you hit Iowa, not so much, but Colorado and all those western states, amazing. So
nothing against Iowa.
No. So our flight was canceled. Nothing. We love Iowa. But so once the flight was canceled, we started looking to rebook our flight, and there was just nothing available. So then we started looking at trains home, and I was like, there was a train that would get us back to Orlando, and but it went from Dallas to Chicago, Chicago to Washington, Washington to Orlando. And we both kind of got all excited about doing it, but then realized that the majority of that ride was going to be in coach. And I was like, you can't do a 3-day train trip. If you're going to do it, you have to have they have the little sleeper cars, So if we're going to do it, we have to do it with a sleeper car, right? So then we were all excited about it. I was like, man, I know there's a train that runs from Dallas to across Texas through the lower western states, Arizona, New Mexico, that I've heard is beautiful. So we started looking into that. So we ended up on this train from Dallas to LA. And we were supposed to have a full day in LA when we got there. So like, we'll go to Knott's Berry Farm, we'll go to Disneyland or something.
Yeah, do all the things there.
Right. So we get on the train in Dallas, get to San Antonio, and we're supposed to have a 5-hour layover in San Antonio, which turned into a 13-hour layover, I think it was.
Wow.
Because a freight train had derailed somewhere along the way. So that put us behind. So we ended up getting to LA like 3 hours before our flight left to come back to Orlando. So we took a train all the way to LA and basically got on a plane to fly all the way back to Orlando. But it was like, again, a life experiences, and just we had a fun. The trip we'll both always remember, I think,
It really was about the journey, not the destination, because your destination was turn around and leave again.
Absolutely.
Speaking about those things, I want you to help me make some vacation plans coming up in the next segment, okay?
You got it.
The way my dad brought me up was always to work hard and to treat people well.
You ready to go for a ride?
We try to keep our goal to make people feel comfortable buying their cars and feel comfortable with the people they're working with.
Nice. Oh, it looks good over here.
So become part of our family. We really mean that. Without question, we're in this together.
We're going to take care of you and treat you like your family anyways.
This looks awesome.
Yankee Ford has so many people willing to help and make this tough time a little bit easier.
Radio207.com only plays original country music from Maine singers, songwriters, and bands. Streaming online and on your smart speaker. Radio207.com is on the air now. Radio207.com. Only Maine, only country music. Your next online event can be perfect thanks to virtualproductionsgroup.com. The Maine People Podcast couldn't happen without them, and they can make your remote streaming event absolutely technically perfect. High quality live and pre-recorded productions for corporate events, weddings, tournaments, charities, and more with virtualproductionsgroup.com. Maine People Podcast with Maine legendary wrestler Scotty Hotty, Scott Garland, the wrestler formerly known as Scotty Hotty. Before I get to my travel question for you, we were talking about Kiss a few minutes ago, and you're a huge Kiss fan. You love the concerts. You said you got a lot of T-shirts. If you could talk to Gene Simmons or Paul Stanley for 10 minutes, what would you want to talk to them about? Or have you?
Okay, I'm gonna drop main locations again here, but
Okay.
years ago they were playing at the ballpark in Old Orchard Beach, and this is before,
that was a lot of years ago.
Yeah, it was before they put the makeup back on, and it was probably like on the Hot in the Shade tour, I want to say. But my friends and I, we dressed up, put all the makeup on and everything, and Gene Simmons was, it was before cell phones, so Gene's out on a payphone outside of the clubhouse where the players used to change. He's on the phone. So I never talked to him, but I think I would just talk to them about the showmanship of what they do. I use those guys every single seminar I talk about Kiss, because what I'll say is I focus more on creating moments in your matches. So go out there and I'll say, give them one thing, give that audience one thing to remember you when they leave here at the end of the night that they're still going to remember a week from now. They're not going to remember the body slams or the suplexes or the any of the moves. They remember
because they see that all the time.
That's it. You have to make moments for them. That's what they're here to see, really. We call it, we think we're selling wrestling when we're really not. We're selling a show. It's just like Kiss. And then I'll go, Kiss has been touring for 40 years. And I'll say, I've seen him 3 times on this tour right now, sold out every night. And I'll say, Paul 70, Gene 72. And they've been selling out arenas for years, and they sell a ton of merch. And then I'll say, do you know how many #1 songs they've had? And of course these people are all young, so they don't have a clue. Probably they've had 0, right? So what does that say?
Oh, sorry, I'm supposed to do it like this nowadays. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So it's the same thing with them. It's not about the music. They could go up there. They can, Paul could screw up a whole chorus or whatever, and nobody cares. They're there to see him fly through the air and Gene spit the fire and the blood and see the confetti, and they're there to see the show. It's really, and I'll say Kiss is more pro wrestling than pro wrestling is pro wrestling now. It's all the same. They create moments and just make you kind of forget about the cable bill that's 2 months late for the 2.5 hours you're at the show. And that's really what we're supposed to do, is entertain and put on a great show. Great wrestling is great, but nobody's going to remember great wrestling. And there's this whole new thing with social media and, these diehard fans that go in and they critique everything and they overanalyze everything and they give you star ratings on your matches. And I was like, what does a 5-star match really equate to? Nothing. Just some guy gave you a 5-star match. It doesn't really translate to anything,
When you're talking about that cool moment that everyone walked away remembering, you gave them something good.
That's it.
Can you imagine coming back at 72 or 3 like a certain wrestler is about to do it?
Man, yeah, it's crazy, right? Good for him, but to me, he had the perfect retirement match, Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania, and they had a great build to it. And but I get it, man. It's especially the level that a Flair or a Hogan are. Those guys can't go anywhere without being recognized for who they are. And it's Tom Brady is not playing football at this point for the paycheck. He's doing it because he loves it. What is he going to do that's going to give him the same feeling inside, that same passion. It's not about the money at this point. It's not about the money for those guys, you know. It's just like it's hard to walk away from, you know. And people
I
think
feel
it's
like we
about,
might see Tom Brady playing when he's 72, Scotty. I don't know.
and when Super Bowl, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're talking about California. You live in Florida. Disneyland or Disney World? Which one's your favorite? I know you're a fan.
So Disney World is the giant. It has the 4 parks and the water parks and all that stuff, right? But Disneyland just has this something special about it, where Walt Disney was actually there and he actually was a part of it, right?
Yeah.
And you feel, it's weird, you feel that when you're there. You just feel there's this weird feeling when you're there, and you know it's the original, and he had a hand in it. Whereas Disney World, he never even saw, you know, he passed away during construction before, you know, the Magic Kingdom even, which is crazy to think. But I'll tell you what one of my favorite lines is, people always say, "Oh, Walt would be rolling in his grave if he saw this or he heard this, what the company's doing now." And I'll be like, no, you know, I think Walt would be pretty impressed that ABC, who loaned him $1 million to build Disneyland in the first place, he now owns ABC. You know, so
Right.
I don't, you know, I don't know if he'd be rolling that much, but I understand, like, a lot of his principles are not, you know, adhered to today, but I think he'd be pretty impressed to realize that he turned around and bought the company that loaned him the $1 million to build Disneyland in the first place.
That's a pretty good perspective.
Right.
By the way, my wife and I will be traveling with some friends to Florida later this fall. Our first trip to Disney since the kids were little. A lot's changed there. If you have any specific recommendations as adults, please feel free to share.
Okay, so I'll give you one right here. It's number one, get there for opening. And really, you want to get there probably an hour before advertised opening, because you never know when they're actually going to open. Sometimes, especially as busy as it's been, they'll open earlier. So if you can get there, no matter how busy the parks are, and dude, I'm telling you, right, since COVID, they are insane. Just they're packed all the time. Even if they're really busy, though, if you get there for that first hour or so, you can bang out a lot of stuff in that first hour.
That's good.
You know, because most people are on vacation, they want to sleep in, so they don't get there till a couple hours after opening. So that's my number one advice at any theme park.
Mick Foley called you a Disney psychotic. Do you think that's accurate? To go along with it?
I'll take that. Yeah, that's fine. It could be a lot worse.
It doesn't sound like an insult. It doesn't sound like an insult at all.
Right. Yeah. No,
so, rumor are that underneath Disney, which one's in Florida? World or Land?
World.
Disney World. Okay, so underneath Disney World, there's a lot of access tunnels that only employees get to go in. Have you ever played the like "Do you know who I am" card to get in there? See things that other people can't see.
I've been down in them. First time. I took a tour. There is a tour called Keys to the Kingdom where they go down.
Oh,
and
cool. I got to make a note of that then.
Yeah. And then when I was working for, it's funny, when I was working for WWE, I was wrestling for them still. And I was on a flight with some of the production guys from Orlando. And, you know, we're sitting beside each other on a plane. And he starts talking about having to work the Disney Christmas parade taping. And I'm like, whoa, what do you mean? Like, I said, so when do you shoot that? He said, well, we start setting up, you know, after they close, and then we spend all night in there running cables and stuff. And I was like, dude, I'll do whatever you need me to do if you can get me booked to work that. And I did. I got to go in right before close, stayed in the park till 5 o'clock in the morning, and I would pick up like one cable, you know, walk it down to the end of Main Street, set it down, and like, you know, so many people working it. It was literally like really not a lot to do, but I spent the night in the Magic Kingdom while they were closed, and with full access to just walk around and be in the tunnels and stuff. So it was really cool.
That's the coolest story.
Yeah, and
making your dreams come true, man.
Yeah. Well, no, actually, there's when we were at the peak of Too Cool Rikishi, I was at Magic Kingdom, and I was getting off the Haunted Mansion, which is probably it's definitely my top 3 favorite rides. And as I was getting off, the dude says, you a wrestler? And, I said, yeah. So we start talking. So I throw a softball out to him. I was like, there's no chance that you guys do like tours after hours or anything, right? And he said, come back when we close. So my wife at the time, my kid's mom, and I, we running back to the Haunted Mansion, and we go in there, and we walk through the Haunted Mansion with the lights on. And I got one, those little Disney trash picker upper things, the little sticks that they use. So he was doing that. Oh, dude, I was like, let me have that. And I took it from him so I could say I worked in the Haunted Mansion one time. So I went through and picked up the trash. Really,
that's pretty great.
Really cool. Yeah.
Look, not everybody gets those moments. You got to take advantage of them when they come around.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for sharing a lot of those moments with us on the Maine People Podcast. I really appreciate your time. It's been great. It's been a lot of fun.
No, you've always been good to me, dude. Like, I remember coming in and hanging out with you guys at the station way back. I think it was when I had neck surgery and I was just sitting home, for a month. And I think I did a whole week or 2 weeks with you guys. So it was really, you guys have always been super
I think
cool.
It was a week. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're always welcome.
Yeah.
Anytime you're back in Maine, you come by and see us at the station.
That was the last time I was there. I've been outside of the studio someday just banging on the window and you won't let me in. So I don't know.
We'll fix it this time. We'll make sure it doesn't happen again.
That'll be awesome. Awesome.
The Maine People Podcast, available everywhere. Click subscribe so you never miss an episode.